to Leap Taken. This is Mika here at Leap Taken. I talk about all things witchy, craft related, law of attraction, manifesting, esoteric, and everything else in between. And this is a definitely in between. So, full disclosure, I'm going to be talking about a popular TikTok person right now. Her name is Risa. She has a 52-part series on TikTok, and she is breaking down, it's called Who the F Did I Marry? And she is laying out in the best way possible on meeting this man that she met, that she would eventually date, get engaged to, marry, and divorce, and all the stuff that came with it. Heads up, if you don't know, basically the guy is a pathological liar. Not to be confused with compulsive liar. It's a different thing apparently. I've learned that myself, and he is. Just, all in all, not a good guy. um, I'm getting warnings. Anyway, yeah, he's not a good guy, apparently. So, why am I talking about this? Because I have a series going on where I am deconstructing spirituality. And we are going to use this as yet another video in that series on deconstructing spirituality and how belief in Christianity will have you married to someone who is a narcissist, pathological liar, who is someone who is extremely selfish, someone who is basically meaning you um, harm in your life, and more importantly, who you accept. You accept this and why that is. So let's get right into it. The tenets of Christianity definitely support having someone in your life who may harm you. Full stop. So I know there's this idea, and I don't want to. I'm trying to say it in a way. Well, first of all, if you're watching this, you're probably either, if you are a Christian, you're probably wrestling with how you fit that in with the other spiritual part of your life, or you're done with it. So I'm gonna speak plain. The whole submissive thing, the whole submit to your husband, that is biblical in nature. Um, for those who are not in Christianity or in any of the Judeo-Christian beliefs, including Islam and all that sort of stuff, if you are not of that and you are still looking for um, submission in your marriage, specifically on the woman to be submissive, at that point, we talking kinks, y'all. That somebody need to call a spade a spade. That's a kink. And there's a place and time for that. And if you want your kink to just be something that's your lived relationship, that's how y'all get down, then call it what it is. That's a kink. And that's cool. That's as long as everybody cool with it. But typically in a submissive dom relationship, there's understandings. There's been a conversation for a healthy one. There's conversations that have been had on, coming into it, and maybe at some point you kind of do a pulse check. But typically, for people who truly live out that kink, there is so much into that other than, because I said so. That's just the way you're supposed to be. That's not how that is. So we have a bunch of people walking around in our society now who necessarily they might call themselves or say they practice the religion, but you and I both know they don't go to anybody's church. They don't practice. They don't read their Bible at all, or any of their holy books. They don't actually participate in the thing that would make them the religion. But they, if somebody died, if something happened, they say they have religion. Or when it comes to submission. So where am I going with this? This young lady, Risa, she met this man, and I'm not going to go into her story. It's a 52-part story. You can look at it. I'm just going to reference it on my overall point. She ignored her basic intuition. She knew things didn't make sense. If it seems like it's too good to be true, and she talks about this, by the way, that she basically gaslit herself. This is a thing that women struggle with. This is actually something, I'm seeing in a different arena. psychiatrists, therapists, counselors are having this different conversation based off of this woman's story on why are women so quick to dismiss every red flag, every warning, when it comes to these romantic relationships. Like, why is that? So in this situation, I can 100% tell you, if she tells you to, because desperation. She didn't want to be alone. She wanted it to be her time. That is not a negative per se. Um, that's not negative to want to be coupled, to want to experience falling in love with someone deeply loving you, that they want to give you the princess treatment. They want to take care of you. There's nothing wrong with desiring that. So I want to be clear. But to a manipulator, that makes you ripe. It makes you ripe for the picking. As long as you know that. To someone, a good person or a person who doesn't have those desires to exploit and manipulate you, and to use you and just be harmful to you, that's great. That's a wonderful thing. I think the problem is that it, there's a beacon being sent out, and both the not so good and the good guy are both seeing this. Like, who gets to you first? The other problem is there's not a lot of good guys, and I think we can agree with that. I'm not saying there's no good guys out there. It's not a lot of them, y'all. And because the good guys are taken, they're not single usually, right? You could agree to that. They're usually not walking around. The only way they become single is they come out of a relationship. You got to hope they didn't become bitter based on the situation that they came out of. But I digress. So definitely belief in taking on certain men taking on certain roles, women taking on certain roles, typically submissive. I'm just gonna keep that short right there. Um, and submissive being like, to me, she wasn't quick to question enough. Like, she asked questions, but she didn't ask at the. I wanted her to ask more questions. And I know why, because I've been in that situation myself. She talked openly about gaslighting herself, but there's a reason she was doing that. It is the dogma of Christianity that she was even in this situation for as long as she was. And as someone, and I can confidently tell you this. I know some people have this idea that that's just not true, that that's what saved her. I'm reading the comments on her stuff, and if people are saying that if it wasn't for God's grace and his protection, your mom's prayers were protecting you. If you were being protected, you wouldn't even be in this situation. Well, you were in this situation because you were ignoring uh, something we all have, is innate, is our intuitiveness. Like, specifically with women, we are all intuitive. First of all of us are. Women specifically have a high level of intuition, and I believe it is how, I don't want to say by design because that's happened to something else, but it has evolved over the years. Just like animals have instinct, basic instinct, we have evolved intuition. And so many of us, because of Christianity, dogma, religious beliefs, we ignore that. And it puts us in dangerous situations. We know for a fact, if you've ever watched it, true crime, do you know how many women knew deep down something? They told a sister, they told somebody, and they end up dead because they knew something wasn't right, but they went into the situation anyway. I am guilty of this myself, very much so. Not anymore, but in the past. But hopefully, with age comes wisdom. And my another situation I want to point out about this story is our elders. We are at a situation right now where I, I do I do have concerns about our elders now. I mean, I guess I'm in that group for some people. Our elders, and our elders who are just not willing to educate themselves, evolve, and expand so that they can give actual information to the younger folk, adults, that can be beneficial to them. We are, we still have a lot of our elders who they just want to stay in what they know. And that's it. And they hoping you do the same thing. And they're telling you, like, that's it. Just go pray. Just go pray about it. Just go pray about it. I mean, you can go ahead and pray about it too. I'm letting, if that's what, makes your boat float, go ahead and pray. But you need to be active as well. And I don't want faith without works is dead. That's not what I'm talking about when I mean active. I mean active using your common sense and your intuition, not ignoring that. because this deity is all seeing, all seeing, all knowing, but letting you get set up. All seeing and all knowing, and he's going to handle everything. All you have to do is give it up to them. And when everything works out, you also give this deity the glory as well. This is the problem. This is why this young lady even went through so much of what she went through. It is very much based in her belief system. When she talked about her mother, because I was stuck on that, so much of this, there's so much here. She says she never really told her mother the whole truth. She refused to tell her mother everything because she believed in what goes on in a marriage stays in a marriage. She did consult a minister and a pastor, not a clinical actual therapist, psychiatrist, or anything of that nature. A pastor and his wife for marriage counseling, which I also thought was a mistake as well, because if she had sat with this man from a trained professional after several sessions, they would have picked up. And I tell you this from experience, because people like that, even a pathological liar, if you hopefully have a decent therapist, they are trained to see. The whole point of them sitting here is to help to see the workings, the inner workings, the communication style, to see what's going on. They have an eye for this sort of stuff. They've been trained, so they would have picked up on certain things. But because these people in this church thing, and you go to the, and what was infuriating to me is that in this story, hopefully you saw it because you'll know what I'm talking about. She says at some point the minister's wife basically, so I don't think y'all gonna make it a year. Okay. She didn't like to hear it, but the minister wife did pick up on something. She did tell her. A trained therapist would have been able to put that into a bigger. Honestly, I think it would have scared her more if she had went to a trained therapist, an actual. When I say like a professional person, because I believe they would have been able to tell her, and not just tell her, but give her instructions, because they would have understand the dynamic better than these religious people. And that also was the setup. That was also the setup. And my heart goes out to her. And I know why she went that route, because that's what they believe. The day the majority of my people have the hold of this Christian stuff off of them is the day, hopefully, I get to live to see, because it is doing so much harm to us. It is harming people. Like, I'm not pushing witchcraft on people, because I don't do that. But it it's a psychological thing. You were a lamb to slaughter in this situation because you're taught to be a lamb. Anyway, I watched all this, and my biggest takeaway from this whole experience is, and this is what I just wanted to say. My intention was not even make a video today. I'm sort of taking a little bit of a break right now. Just mental health stuff, nothing like bad. Just, well, I'm proactive, not reactive. So there you go. I'm being proactive. I don't want burnout. I don't want to get to that space. So I took a break. I felt like, okay, maybe I need to work on some other things. And that's what I've been doing. So if you notice, you haven't seen a lot of videos from me in about a week. That was intentional, but I could not let this one go. Listen to your intuition, which is what I'm doing. Listen to your intuition. She says she made the whole series because if one woman heard this and it made a difference and she started questioning things, then, she feels good that she's done something that was the intention. And she's made an impact for sure, because a lot of things are being revealed. One, I'm hoping, in the same vein, that for those who are struggling with this, what you've been taught, what you've been indoctrinated with about Christianity and these religions, I'm going to say religion, versus, in how you're in your modern times trying to take that in modern times. Fun fact: the cult of Christianity from way back when, those people never saw it coming this far. They, first of all, they couldn't possibly know about it having this reach on this level, but it was never this. If you read the stories, if you take what's being said, the intention, when these books were authored and revised multiple times, It was never with the intent. It was always with the intention of the present and maybe the distant, the nearer future, but not the distant future where we are now. That is also why things just don't make sense and it doesn't work, because it was never supposed to. It never was intended to go on for this long. Um, Most people, because it was men, they were very self-centered and thought about the Bible in a sense of their lifetime and maybe their child, their children and grandchildren, maybe that, they kind of, you can tell by just the way things are written. And we have people, specifically Black people, cannot overstate this, who the only reason you have that book in your hand is because of violence. Um, and this young lady has all this information. She's been indoctrinated and she's a victim in this across the board. And I know I'm taking a crazy stance on this, but she's a victim because she's a victim of this man, and she's a victim of this religion, because this religion, that it encouraged this mindset for her to even um, be in this, to have been in a position. Now, I want to address something, because I know it sounds like, oh, so if I'm not, so what are you trying to say? If you Christian, you fall for this. If you're not, no, because you don't have to be Christian and still fall for something. Because if someone, there are certain desires, there are certain things. I remember working with a therapist, and we talked about this before. Basically, how to avoid being abused, and the therapist told me there are people, specifically women, who will repeatedly put themselves in a situation. I know someone who, they were married, they were in a situation that wasn't ideal. The marriage didn't work out. There was some really not some bad stuff this guy did, the husband did. And the marriage was dissolved. Okay. This person learned from this, but they had explained that even after all that, they pursued, initially when starting to date, they went straight to finding that same type of guy. And they didn't even make the connection initially what they were doing. They were looking in the same industry, literally for a similar type of situation, a similar type of guy. Um, Even after coming out of that experience. And I know that's hard, and they just, it didn't click right away. Eventually it clicked for them, gratefully, but it didn't click right away. There are people, women specifically, who do the same thing. Oh, what is the definition of insanity? You keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result. But here's the thing, I'm gonna tell you something. Low key, they're not expecting a different result. There's some damage, there's some healing that still needs to take place, because they're still inviting this in. They still are technically looking for it. And there's, that's where your therapist will help you unpack, why are you doing this? Where is this coming from? Why do you think this is what you uh, deserve? This is what is you're slotted for in life. But that's another conversation. You got to work through a therapist with that one. I'm educated on a lot of things, but that's the type of work I don't want to get into, not at this stage in my life, because it would require a certain amount of sacrifice on my part to be able to not carry that with me. Spiritual, I'm good with that, and I kind in my work, honestly, you do kind of get into the psychological things a little bit, but I know where my stopping point is, and I know when to reference you to somebody else for the other stuff. Um, but yeah, my biggest takeaway, because I'm about to go on a full on tangent, my biggest takeaway from this is that some of us, we need to do that shadow work. We need to get more of that healing. Women, I see some of us, definitely some of us women out here, we need to work on our healing. We need to understand what it is to be whole, and how another person can't make you whole. They can't validate you. Being married does not validate you. Even if you have children and you've never been married, and this man is coming because he senses your desire to want the two parent household and to want the stability and all that comes with that. He senses that. And some of these guys, they know that, and they are targeting you. And if you feel like you are constantly in a cycle, you keep running across these same type of men, the common denominator is you. That is not to victim. I'm not victim blaming you. I'm saying the common denominator is you. Sometimes we keep putting ourselves in similar situations, but we have to do that work on figuring out the why. Why am I doing this? If you met the last guy at a bar and he tried to hit on you, so you went to a different bar and you met a guy there, then he tried to beat on you, we gonna go a third time meeting another man at the bar, see if he gonna beat on you. Like, maybe we don't want to meet men in bars because there seems to be a connection of alcoholism. He get drunk, he beat on you. Like, why would we keep doing that? But do you know how many women do that and will look you dead in the eye and be like, "No, this one's different." And here's the thing: I'm not speaking from hypotheticals. I actually have seen this play out in real life. Sadly, by more than one woman in my lifetime, I've actually seen this play out. That's something psychological. Sometimes I do. I'm very grateful I practice witchcraft. I'm very grateful for where I'm at in my point at this stage of my life, acquiring lived experiences, acquiring, the spiritual education that has been shown to me that I've absorbed, yes, it was from books, whether it was from just, being attuned with spirit and from other people, teachers, and people who have come into my life to explain and show so that I was able to absorb and learn that from them. And what I do know is, and here's where we get to the positive, because I don't want to like just keep it negative on, beating up on this woman saying she's a Christian, that's why she suffered, because that's not what I'm saying. But let's talk about for us who are not Christians. How do you approach meeting a man, meeting a person, partner, whatever? Okay, so what do you do? Okay, you listen. You listen with your ears. You listen with your eyes. You listen with your third eye. You listen with your heart. And on some level, you listen with your other parts as well. Because all that needs to be in tune. If she down here is in tune and none of this other stuff is in tune, that's a red flag. Okay? If you are here and here, down here, but this other stuff ain't clicking, that's also a red flag. Everything, there has to be a balance here. So what happens when you feel like all this is balanced and there's genuine attraction to a person, they telling you what you like to hear, you like what they saying, you picking up what they putting down, everybody, there's the attraction is real. Because for master manipulators, if they're good at it, they can mask very well. And you won't know right away. There are some who have gotten very good, y'all, and you won't pick up on it right away. But here's what I'm going to tell you. Eventually, it's always something, even if it's just a feeling. That young lady talked about in her video, something just don't add up. You can't put your finger on it. You don't know what it is. You can't explain it, but something in your soul is telling you something's off. That is your moment. And that usually happens in the beginning, by the way, or, whether it's days, weeks, or just a couple months in, something just don't sound right. So, you picked up on something. This is where we do ourselves a disservice. We ignore it. We ignore it. And we just keep going, well, I can't prove anything. A lot of us get obsessed with proof. We want to see proof that those feelings, that emotion or that warning or something in us is valid. And if we don't have the proof, well, I'm gonna just keep my eyes open and I'm gonna just keep dating them. Heed your warning. Respect your intuition enough to heed it. You don't owe anybody anything in this world. You don't owe anybody an explanation. You don't owe anybody anything. If it ain't right, it ain't right. If it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense. Bold words, but listen, I have lived enough. I have suffered enough to tell you facts. You ain't missing out on nothing. If it was right, why would you feel it? And a young lady gaslit herself, and she was like, maybe you're just not used to having a guy like this in your life that wants to take care of you. He's telling you all the things. No, you know the difference. You do, deep down, you do know the difference. I would go to my tarot cards. I'd get a reading. Basically, I'd work some divination. I'd reach out to my ancestors if I truly was like, but I don't physically see what the problem is, but there's this feeling. If I truly had questions about that as a practitioner, I would seriously, if I didn't want to pull the trigger and just be done with this person based off of a feeling, I would seek help. I outside of myself. That's when you might want to actually get a reading for real, for real. Find somebody you trust, y'all. Find somebody you trust, somebody who's a little bit more practical minded. It's hard. I'll admit that it's hard because a lot of people just want to take your money. Um, Shameless plug here. I am not one of those people. Point is, but I'm going to tell you though. I'm going to tell you, um, whether we like it or not. I'm going to just tell you, and I'm not callous, but I just tell you what I'm getting. What I'm getting off the reading of the cards. But yeah, I would definitely seek divination, and even after all that, if it was unclear, because sometimes we seek divination and it's not very clear. It's not saying it's positive, but it's not saying it's all bad. Well, here's the thing. Some of us are on our 13th reason. Some of us out here, we got maybe one good situationship, relationship in us, and then we done. This, if maybe you were meant to avoid this, because this could be number 13. This might be it, and not in a good way. Maybe you need to just avoid it because no matter, even if it's something you can get over, it's not the end of your world as you know it. Dealing with this person, it could just be just that's the straw that broke the camel's back for you. And there might be a situation that's more advantageous for you, and you won't receive that because you fooled around with this one over here. Trust your intuition. That is my takeaway from this whole thing. Gratefully, I'm no longer Christian. Gratefully, I do trust in my intuition. It is the basis of almost everything that I believe in because once I relied on my intuition, it has not failed me. It hasn't failed me. And it's got me to the place that I'm at now. And I am a whole, healthy, happy person who is a practicing witch, who knows her worth, who knows who she is, healed, um, and ready for what the life and adventure that life is bringing, and very much being grateful and in the present. That's who I am now because I trust my intuition, because I very much let it guide me and let it dictate, which path I should go on. Because I can trust myself. I can put faith in me. And as long as I'm doing that, that means I got to trust me and trust with my heart, my third eye, what my eyes are seeing, what my ears is hearing, and whatever else is going on as well. And I know how to keep all those things in balance. All right, so I'm going to end it here. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Mika. This is Leap Taken. Please like the video if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe if you'd like to. Hit the join button to help support the channel here. And also go to leaptaken.com. Check out the services that I offer. All right, thanks again. Bye.